in his 11-hour testimony for the Board of Elections. And that is, his intent was to always return to Chicago. He maintained a driver's license here. He maintained his voting status here. And he even left articles behind that were important to him and his family. So it's not just, you know, the fact that he had a piece of real estate on which he paid taxes. There are other factors. And the central question is, what was his intent? And all of these facts that we're talking about are just relevant to that simple issue. Did he intend to return to Chicago? And that was...
So would it make a difference if he'd gone there, say he's an apartment dweller, and he goes to Washington, gets a driver's license in Washington, since he really has no address here, giving up an apartment? Would those things change? I mean,
the balance does start to shift. But, you know, you know, you couple with testimony that I have every intent to return. You know, look at it like a serviceman. You know, a serviceman gets, you know, he joins the armed forces, he leaves, but he continues to vote in Chicago or vote in Illinois. Would we say upon his return that he's no longer a resident?
Can you speculate on why the appellate court saw it so clearly different from the Supreme Court and the Board of Commission?
You know, I cannot speculate, because I mean, I know all three justices who were listening to that case, and they are all very accomplished, were accomplished lawyers and are considered to be scholars on the court. But, you know, as you know, in the law, people can take a set of facts and come out on different sides of it.
So we had five justices with the majority of opinions, and they were Republicans and Democrats. I think a couple of Republicans on the
appellate court. There was a three-judge panel on the
I'm talking about the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court, seven.
Yeah.
And so that was
Freeman and
Thomas, Gilbride, Robert. Let's see, Rita Garman, Lloyd. I can't pronounce his name, Carmeyer, and Mary Jane Theus joined with the majority opinion, ruling that Rahm Emanuel met his residency requirement.
And then, of course, we don't want to forget on the appellate court, Justice Bertina Lampkin, who really said that it was a disservice to the voters for the appellate court to take that position. And she was the one dissenting justice on the appellate court that made that statement.
Yeah, that was a pretty rough.
Yeah. I mean, she said striking Rahm's manuals from the ballot of the mayoral of Chicago was unfairly disenfranchises every voter of Chicago.
And that's pretty much the law in Illinois. I mean, a person's right to become a candidate is considered to be fundamental.
As voting as
your ability to put yourself before the people as a candidate is considered to be fundamental.
I guess, you know, when I read the appellate court decision, in one sense, if somebody leaves, instead of running for ward, you know, I want to run for alderman of a particular ward. I moved to Washington for 7 years or what have you. I don't know whether I'd still be able to vote if I didn't have a house here, whether I'd still be permitted to vote in Chicago. But it seemed as if that appellate court decision said being an elector or the right to vote was different from the right to be a candidate. And if someone doesn't live here, say for 7 years, I was run for alderman. I'm in Dusseldorf, Germany or whatever, and I have no apartment here. I have no home here, but it's my intent to always go back home. Should I be able to go back and represent the people of that ward where I've never stepped foot in the last 7 or 8 years? Is there a difference?
Well, according to the code, it is.
According
to the code.
Do you? I've not seen these people, never stepped foot in this ward, but I want to have my nominating petition circulated while I'm in Dusseldorf,
7 years,
Germany.
that's a stretch.
I do want to come back one day.
You can't get a driver's license. Your driver's license would have expired here in Illinois unless you've been back to renew it and voting.
That is,
these
if
are the
you are doing
factors.
this on behalf of the United States, we got to put it in some context here.
Right. You can vote. They said you can vote, but you can't be a candidate to represent these people because you've not even been in the community or not lived here for this requisite time. Anyway, let's move on because we are going, you know, it's a little...
Are you prepared to talk about his platform and what he plans to do? There's a lot of things in the news.
Let's take a call. Let's take a call, do a commercial, and then we'll come back with a conversation. Folks, you're listening to the Borges Report right here on WBON, the Talk of Chicago. I'm attorney Ernesto Borges, along with Don Rashid, Mark Wallace, and our special guest, Attorney Z. Scott. Let's take a call, then we're going to do a commercial. Rosa, you're listening to the Borges Report.
Morning.
Morning. Well, we would love to have them on our show. I don't know if they're scheduled to do some other shows, but yes, we'd love to have Doc Walls, my fraternity brother, dear friend, and Dr. Watkins to come on. And yes, maybe we have devoted a lot of time to something that's already been decided by the appellate court, and that's why we're going to...
You said that as much to me yesterday.
Huh? I did say that because it's kind of been decided, and we don't want to beat a dead horse. It's already been decided, unanimous decision. But and you're right, we do need it because we're only on for an hour. So we'll move on. And you know, if you know them, have them call in. We'd love to have them on. We want to have as many candidates as we can. Okay. Okay. Well, we're extending an invitation to them. Yes.
Yeah, we're extending an invitation to all of the candidates.
Yeah. You're right. Okay. Thanks for your call, Rosa. Point well taken. Folks, we're going to take a commercial break. We'll be back in 60 seconds. You're listening to the Borges Report right here on WBON, Chicago. So you can't speak to any of
his positions or...
Yes, something about education and...
I don't know. I haven't really studied his... I mean, I've seen his commercials. I've seen him... I've seen him, I've heard him talk about what he stands for, but have I sat down and really parsed through what he really stands for?
Okay. All right. Why don't we get off of Ron for you can join in on some of the other conversations, but I don't think since you're really not a representative,
right?
In that sense, we'll get to some of the other topics. Let's see. Where do you guys want to go? You guys want to talk about anything in particular?
I did pull that article that the young lady brought up to us last night about the foreclosure status, and it's, you might want to highlight.
You did? Here's number 2 in the nation.
Yeah. Number 2 in home repossessions last year, 45,500.
Stand by.
What? Talk to me. Okay, welcome back. Are we ready? Welcome back, folks. You're listening to the Borges Report with Attorney Ernesto Borges, Don Rashid, and Mark Wallace, and our special guest, Attorney Z. Scott. And we were talking a little bit about the Rahm Emanuel out in. And so we're going to move on to another topic. And I think, we were out last night, Mark, and a young lady was speaking to us, and she was a little upset that Chicago is the number 2 foreclosure capital of the world, and was wondering why we don't get more attention to that. And, there are a lot of people out here losing their homes, so we want to bring that to the attention of listeners and what can be done. And I do have a law firm, and we do a lot of foreclosure defense work, along with loan modifications, Chapter 7s and Chapter 13. So there are a lot of folks out there needing help. And, it's something we should. I know you help, Mark, over at Operation Push, with all the many people that come over there on Monday nights at 6:30.
Yeah, 6 o'clock every Monday night. Anybody who has these issues can come by, and I'll certainly sit with them and give them some guidance as to what they can do in terms of trying to remedy the foreclosure situation, but it's a much greater issue than that, that our government seems to have either a blind eye to it. I can't even quite fathom, you know, the neglect is what I call it in terms of our government really taking issue with this. I mean, Chicago being the #2 area, following Phoenix, and then Detroit and Miami and Atlanta are the next. But we lost 455,000 homes were repossessed last year, and 139,000 new filings last year of foreclosures, and it's on the rise. We don't even know where the bottom is. And like I said,
I've got a good one.
What's that?
John Burge.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, John Burge, you know, he's a gentleman who, through his tactics, sent a lot of men, or probably considerably, to death row, and he's convicted, and he keeps his pension. The governor, Governor Ryan, he gets convicted of a crime. He does not keep his pension, and that is a big topic that's in the news right now. That's something I was wondering if Rahm Emanuel was successful in his effort to become the mayor. How would he weigh on such a issue?
Well, you know, he's spoken, yeah, right. But Rahm in particular, if you're asking that question, if you listen to any of his speeches, or certainly on forums, Rahm has said that, you know, we've got to answer, you know, a lot of tough questions, and we got to take a lot of tough positions in the corruption that is existing in our government.
Well, you know what happened, and I was talking to Representative Susan Mendoza, who's the candidate for clerk last night. She was indicating that she has spoken to Attorney General Lisa Madigan, and they are, Lisa Madigan, I think, is going to appeal that decision, and as she's done in the past with cases like this. So
with respect to
his pension, taking monies that come from the public, why should this man have $500,000 waiting for him when he gets out of prison in the next 4.5 years? He comes out, he hasn't paid for his food, his housing, his clothing, or anything else for 4.5 years, and he comes out not costing him a dime, and he's got $500,000 waiting on him. So that's absurd. So it's my understanding that that is going to be appealed by the Attorney General's office, and but this is a federal. See, this is a federal matter.
Well, it's a federal matter, and it's a matter that's separate and apart from that, which is a technicality. But it's also part. It stems from that because he lied on some answers. But so his conviction is based on lying,
and it's in a federal court. But still, the money is not federal money that he's going to be getting.
Correct.
It's money from the city of Chicago. So I think that from the people of the state of Illinois. So this is a man who should be. I mean, Ryan, what's the difference there? Right? This board voted. The 4 people that voted to let him keep his pension were all police officers. And the way that this board is comprised, this board that makes the decision as to whether to keep your pension or not, is comprised of certain people. Those that voted in favor were all past police officers.
So it was a sort of on sort of the legal side. As a former federal prosecutor, you look at his conviction, and I was a prosecutor for 16 years in the federal government, the same office that prosecuted and convicted Burge. The board had to decide whether his conviction was indeed related to his work as a police officer, and he was convicted of lying, as opposed to convicted of something that was directly related to his police duties. Now, the public would say, and I would say, that they're slicing it kind of thin.
Very thin.
And it's really,
So that's
sort of
their reasoning, that it was for lying and not.
Well, that's what they said.
That's what their reasoning was.
And their reasonings was that his conviction was, and what he was found guilty of, had nothing to do with his job as a police officer, when in fact he lied about what he had to do what he had done his job as a police officer.
So would that mean Governor Ryan should not lose the portion of his pension when he was governor, but as Secretary of Secretary of State? So that's when he was guilty of he was found guilty of the actions that occurred during his term as Secretary of State.